relationship and
Yeah.
the purpose thing
Yeah.
and what was the other one? Oh, do you believe in the afterlife and stuff like that?
Afterlife. Well, I begin with the premise. I like to begin with premises. And the reason why you want to begin with premises is because everything, your behavior comes from your beliefs.
Yeah.
So your belief is the filter to your behavior. For example, two people could experience the same exact thing, like same exact event, same exact place,
Yeah.
and have completely different perspectives. You could go to the same theater, watch the same movie, and have completely different opinions.
True.
And
Yes.
same thing because of the filters, the beliefs are the filters. So when you change the beliefs, their whole perspective of life changes. So when you go right down to the very, very, very beginning of your thinking, you find out what belief is. So a belief it changed my life. A belief is any idea that has emotional investment. And what I did was I I trained with the the creator of neurolinguistic programming. Are you familiar with that term?
No.
Neurolinguistic programming, it's how the neurology of the brain presents itself in language,
Yeah.
meaning how you think is how you speak. If you change the way you think, it changes the way you speak.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because there's something called syntax. Syntax are the words that we have. We all have this a collection of words, right? We learn words, but the way we think determines how the syntax comes out, meaning the structure of our words.
Yeah.
So the way we think results in the way we speak.
Okay. Oh, shit.
Yeah, yeah. That's the premise of neurolinguistic programming.
That's a
Yeah. That's why when you look at people who are successful,
yeah.
they speak differently, and they say they don't have to think about what they say. They just say it, and you think it was like, oh my god, that's brilliant. That's because that's how they think.
That's going to be my question.
Yeah.
Do you think you need to be successful in life, or are you like complacent on what you have like right now?
So there is a word which we love, and we don't appreciate, and the word is success.
Okay.
Success, success has been maligned to mean what it doesn't actually mean. Everybody thinks a success. Remember, I go to the beginnings of thinking, beginnings of beliefs. So most people believe that a success is a positive outcome.
Yeah.
What do you think a success is? What do you
Personally?
think? Yeah,
For me personally, it's my happiness.
yeah,
It's for me being happy on completing a goal that I set for myself
yeah,
and achieving that goal.
yeah,
So then, therefore, I'm happy in my success in that goal.
yeah. That's good. That's way better than everybody else. A lot of people who don't have critical thinking, they just accept what society taught them about success. They say, success is a house, a car, millions of dollars, and you could be Robin Williams and have millions and millions of dollars and have millions of people who would do anything for you because
Yeah.
they love you, and still be depressed, suicidal, killing yourself because no, it doesn't matter how much money or cars or clothes you have. If you're not happy, would you determine that as success? No, right? So a success originally in the 1500s was changed into a positive outcome. But before 1500s, it just meant it has one word. If you look at the dictionary, it just meant outcome. Yeah. So, for example, when in a royal family, someone who succeeds somebody, like the prince, the heir to a
Yeah.
throne, it doesn't mean it's a positive successor. It just means the next one down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
A successor. So that's what a success means. Success means outcome. So it doesn't matter what you do. If you make an attempt, it results in an outcome. It results in a success. So if somebody were to continue making attempts, no matter what it is, they are full of outcomes.
Yeah.
They are full of successes. They're successful. The opposite, most people imagine, like the opposite of success is the word failure, right?
Yeah.
So the opposite of success is failure, except a failure is not a negative outcome. It's not you're making a mistake. You go to somebody, you got rejected. Most people think that, oh my God, I failed. Or I make a business endeavor, I write a book, and it doesn't sell, I failed. No, no, no. A failure is you're not making an attempt. It's the opposite of success.
Yes.
So if you created an outcome, you wrote a book, whether or not it has a positive outcome, it's a success. So anybody who has continued attempts is somebody who is full of successes, somebody who's successful. So for me, if someone were to tell me, do I believe in success? I am very, very successful whether or not I have $1 million house or not. Because I continue to go on the road of my journey of successful attempts.
Okay.
I'm always headed towards my goal. If you're headed towards your goal and you continue making attempts, then you are successful. Yeah.
Okay, my next question is, we're in the era of social media
Yeah.
and Facebook, Instagram, where people have personalities for themselves
Yeah.
on social media and they're not the same in person.
Yeah.
Why do you think people do that to themselves, where they try to create this persona of themselves for other people to see?
They try to create.
So
I look at social media. Social media is it does a lot of things to a person, which is it magnifies the person.
yeah.
So it just magnifies. It's just a tool for communication. For example, for me, I grew up when I was in high school. I used to play pagers.
Yeah.
Pagers and phones, like phones on a hook. And when you see like a circle thing, most people don't know what that is. And like when you see a phone and the icon, it's a hang up icon. The millennials have no idea what that is because they've never picked up a phone.
Yeah.
So the phone was a tool to communicate.
Yes.
And now there's Messenger, and now there's Instagram. It's just a tool. So it magnifies who you are as a person. So if a person pretends to be someone they're not in public, then it magnifies that in social media. So, for example, if you have a business, and in business you pretend to be someone you're not, you put up a persona, it just magnifies on social media. You're still doing it in public. You just now have more of a tool on social media. So I like to when I communicate with people, I'm very straight, direct, and forthright and transparent.
Okay, what about for children though? Children are now like growing up, not playing outside. Because when I was young, I would be playing outside. I had an imagination. I didn't have, an iPhone or anything like that to like, I had to use my imagination. If I wanted to be a fucking dragon, I was a fucking dragon. For however long I was outside.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't see kids going outside playing anymore, or they're all on social media. They have this persona of themselves when they're at like age 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And like they're just glued, so they become antisocial. And they're not able to speak to people when they meet them, or since they fear so much rejection, they try to date through dating apps, which why dating apps are so popular now, because no one can communicate with the opposite sex or the person they like because they're afraid of rejection, or they're just so glued to their fucking phone. It's just they're not capable of it. They don't know how to fucking talk to another person. For example, my friend, he was like, oh, I want to hang out with you, and every time we're hanging out, he's on his phone. And I'm like, you know me, I don't like when people are on their phones if you're hanging out with me. I want to have an actual conversation with you. Let's talk about something. Now let's play on our phones and like, hey, say 2 words and eat our food and leave. You know what I'm saying?
Now, I look at it, do you follow Gary Vaynerchuk? He talks a lot about how phones affect social media and communication. I don't believe everything he says, but so I look at it this way. At some point in the future, we're not gonna need licenses because we're gonna have Uber, and Uber is gonna be cheaper because there's gonna be more drivers and more opportunities for people to. There's gonna be Tesla, who you could buy a car, and your car will automatically drive, will drop you off to work, and then you could say, okay, make money for me, and the car will be an Uber on its own. So perhaps in the future we won't need. So technology changes everything, how we do things. It's not a matter of.
But you think in turn that's going to make us lazy?
It's definitely gonna change our behavior. It's definitely gonna change of how we do things. So I think we just have to adapt to how it's done. So for example, for me, how I adapt to it, I don't mind people being on the phone when I communicate with them. I just want to be more compelling than the phone. For example, I would rather be on a phone than be in an elevator with somebody uninteresting trying to talk to me. But if somebody, if I were on the same elevator and there's somebody on the phone, I want to be so interesting as to compel them to talk to me instead of get on their phone. There was a girl up here that she was on her phone, and I saw her. She's a very cute girl.
Oh, the red hair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know her, yeah.
Yeah, very cute. I see her all the time, and she lost a lot of weight. She was on her phone. I'm like, hey, I want to ask you something. And I started a conversation. And my thinking when it comes to that is that I want to be so interesting as to compel them to communicate with me rather than be on the phone. So when I see somebody on the phone and they're on a date, their date must be so uninteresting as to I'd rather be on the phone than communicate with this person.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of whether we should change it. It's a matter of how do we adapt to it. How do we, for example, for children, how do we teach them as parents or as a community? There are parents that don't teach their children, but there's also a community of people that can propagate good messages on social media. So be a force for good instead.
I mean, I believe social media is good for me personally, business-wise.
Exactly,
yes, business-wise, making money-wise.
Yeah.
It has helped a lot of people get jobs and create
propagate information.
Yeah. So in turn, it is a good thing.
Yeah.
And everything has its negative and positives.
Yeah.
So I understand. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's just adaptation, man.
Yes.
You gotta adapt to it. So that's my thought on that.
Okay.
So the central theme of my existence is worthiness. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but most people have the center of their universe as entitlement. Meaning, for example, you get promoted to a manager, and now you're entitled to that position. Now you are entitled to the respect of people. And you say, I'm your manager, you gotta listen to me, or else you're gonna get fired. Now, deservedness is, I wanna be so deserving of everything that I want, that I get it, an abundance of it. So I become deserving of the respect that I want, that I get an abundance of it. They respect me out of my deserving of it. So, for example, I want to be deserving of interest. I want to be so compelling in my communication that I get a lot of interest. I get a lot of attention from the person. So they'd rather be talking to me rather than on their phone because I deserve that attention. I'm so interesting. Yeah. Rather than being entitled. Like, I could go on a date. Hey, you're on a date with me. You listen to me. No, I'm not asking that. I'm like, I'm so interesting that you're going to pay attention to me. So,
Exactly.
for example, I want to tell stories. I want to be compelling. I want to talk about interesting ideas. And it catches their attention. If they're not interested in the kind of stuff I talk about, they're not the right person for me.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
I understand that. What about my other question would be government. So my view on this is I feel that if we didn't have money, we would be a more I would say smarter race.
Yeah, smarter race.
Like technology is bad, but I feel like if we were able to cut out government and all work together, we'd probably be way more advanced, But a lot of people think we need a government. So
need a government.
Believe that or?
I love that you asked this question. You're a very smart person. So a government is an entity which is comprised of people.
Yeah.
Many people think Many people think, okay, so government, look up to the government, they will take care of us. And and I say a government is made up of representatives that represent you as an individual.
Yes.
So a government, um, so a government represents the individual. It should represent the individual. If a government represents, if a government, well, I don't want to go into that whole, but let me go back to the foundational philosophy that everybody agrees with.
Yeah.
I consider myself as an autarchist.
What is that?
Autarchism is the original foundation of anarchy. Anarchy is anti-government. Autarky is not anti-government. Autarky is just is saying that you would be better off looking out for yourself and producing and being a value to the community, but being loyal to your own individual productivity and life. And for example, when they on an airplane, and when the masks drop, they don't say put the mask on your kid first. No, they say put your mask on yourself first, because if you put your mask on your kid, you have two kids, you put your mask on your kid, you don't survive. What about your other kid? Or if you survive, you're gonna be able to help other people. So I'm a propagator of looking out for the individual and bettering yourself, because if you better yourself, you become a valuable part of society, and you better society you make a difference in society, in your community.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's along the lines of what you're saying as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what autarky is.
I like that answer.
Yeah.
My next question would be, do you believe in God? Or if you don't believe in God, why don't you?
Do I believe? So I consider myself as an apatheist. Apatheist. I am apatheistic. An apatheist is a conjunction of two words. A theist, which means a belief in an entity, and apathy, which means lack of caring. So there are a couple of things. Atheist, which is I don't believe. There's agnostic, which there may or may not be. I'm not close to either or, right? Apatheist is there's no way to prove it, and I don't care. Meaning you could be in front of me, you could be Muslim, and you could live your own life, and I don't care. You can believe whatever you want. We could shop in the same area as long as you're pleasurable and you're not offensive to me. Then we can get along. You can believe whatever you want.
That's
And
crazy. I did
yeah.
not know about that.
Yeah, apatheistic. And so there's no way to prove it. There's no way to prove there's a God, and if there's no way to prove there's an afterlife, and if I were to prove it to myself there were afterlife, it'd be too late because I'd be dead, so it won't matter.
Yeah.
If there was, perfect. If there isn't, who cares? Because I'm dead, right?
True.
It'd be too late to find out.
Yeah. Well, why do you think people believe in this heavily so much in this Bible and the God? So, for example, let me say this. I know a lot of people that are in bad situations,
Yeah.
and sometimes they get to a point where they start seeing good stuff happen to them,
Yeah.
and in turn they don't see it as them doing it, they see it as God doing it,
Yeah.
or He guiding me here, so
Yeah.
listen up.
Yeah.
Why do you think people do that to themselves?
Let me give you an axiom to how people like to think. It's very important because it's a foundation of how everybody behaves. People would rather be a slave than to be free.
Whoa.
I want you to pay attention to this. Where
Shit.
the heck is that girl? What is she
Whoa,
doing?
that's-
People would rather be a slave than to be
that's
free.
a strong comment right there.
I'll show you. I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you. People would rather be the vice president of Magna Corporation and make $100,000, 6 figures a year, than own their own company with no money and no employees. So people would rather be a slave to a company than to be free and have to survive on their own. So what's the difference between somebody who is a slave and somebody who is an employee? There's no difference. The only difference between those two is that one presumes that they have a master and one imagines that they don't have a master, but they do. So I want you to stop working right now and see what happens. If you're an employee, stop working, don't show up to work, and see what happens. To be a slave is to fear punishment.
Yeah.
That's what it means to be a slave. So if you fear the punishment of somebody firing you if you don't show up to work, then you're a slave. If you fear not paying the government taxes, you're a slave to the government. So to be free, most people would rather not be free because freedom requires responsibility. People would rather have somebody else be responsible for them. So for example, the reason why people like free stuff from government, like there are a lot of people who vote for socialist government. The reason why is because they promise free shit. You get free schooling and they don't question where does that money come from. You don't believe that the government actually like just creates money out of thin air, right? Where do you think that money comes from? The money comes from taxes. That's to say that you're gonna take money from my production. I'm gonna work, and more money is gonna be taken out of it, taxes, by the government, so to pay for your education. So people would rather have somebody be responsible for them than they be responsible for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's a critical thinking.
Which is crazy because in other countries, college is free.
Yeah.
College is free.
Yeah, exactly. So if you go to Canada, for example, they have universal health care. So it's debatable, right? Some people see that as a good thing. And you could go to any healthcare place. We could talk about this into a rabbit hole for this, but if you go to a healthcare a clinic, the healthcare has less quality because it's free. For somebody to, if you have cancer, for example, in Canada, if you have cancer, you would have to go on a year or 6-month-long waiting list. Where in America, you could immediately get checked. Yeah, because it's free healthcare, less quality. What was the question?
That's crazy.
Forgot the question.
Yeah, I forgot the question.
People would rather get free stuff than be responsible for themselves. So, for example, there are people who are actually believe in communism, right? Communism means we'll take care of your job. You have a job. You're born. You have a job, but you're under the thumb of the government. You can't be free, right? It's communism.
Having a dictator, basically, yeah, a dictator, right?
Yeah, you have somebody who dictates the rules.
Yeah.
For example, like there's an entity which these are the laws. You follow the laws, and that translates to religion, right?
Yeah.
An entity which has laws in which you follow the laws. For example, in the Bible or in a lot of religious texts, you look at it and you actually read it. So there's something called someone who is a la carte religious, meaning they take the good things about the book, but they ignore the bad parts. They ignore the parts where if you're gay, you should be killed. They ignore those parts. Or in other books, other texts, in newer religion, you know anything about the Bible?
Not really.
I was raised Catholic, so I know a lot about the Bible.
I didn't pay attention to any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I threw it out the window.
Yeah. So if you, for example, if you speak to anybody who's really, really into the religion themselves, you know, they believe you must be married and you can't be married to the same sex, otherwise it's frowned upon. Where back then you'd be killed, right? Back then, if you were a female and you got married to somebody and you didn't bleed. The reason the honeymoon was created because there was one moon per month, and this month was called the honeymoon. And what it was it was designed to sequester the woman away from other men, so that when they do have sex with somebody that she married, if she didn't bleed, that means she wasn't a virgin. If she wasn't a virgin when she got married, she didn't bleed, her hymen didn't break, she'd be stoned to death. Just like when you were ostracized from your village, and they thought you had like superpowers, you were a witch, you'd be burned to death. So people operated from those beliefs. You didn't know about that? Like,
well, what if she didn't bleed just for certain health reasons?
Exactly. So you know anything about that kind of thing?
No.
So yeah,
that's crazy.
That's why honeymoon come from. Marriage, there's a lot of that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Marriage came from. So you look at the evolutionary biology of humans. Humans didn't evolve to be monogamous, and so if we evolved to be monogamous, we wouldn't have the need for the word marriage. We just pair bond with one person. We didn't need to have like a contract for it. We just be with one person.
Weird to
yeah.
think that you need a piece of paper to express your love for someone.
Exactly.
That I will be with you forever.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is just be with that person forever if you want.
No, I'm not against marriage. I'm against the idea of being the ideas that come with marriage, because you could be married and on a contract of exclusivity and still be open.
Yeah.
You could have options in that contract, because marriage is just a contract of exclusivity. So, for example, if you were to say, yeah, let's get married because of the tax benefits or the benefits of the children being taken care of, and let's have agreements in that marriage. That's cool. It's the same contract as anything else. But when it comes to traditional marriage, it's not a good thing, because it's the contract is based on religion. So that's the only thing. You could be married and be open, and that's fantastic.
I believe in marriage also as well, but me personally, I will not sign the paper.
Yeah.
We can have a wedding and everything, but I'm not signing the paper.
Are you familiar with BDSM contracts?
Yes.
So same thing with marriage, except it's not honored in court. But BDSM contract is a marriage. It's the same contract as a marriage, without the religious aspect, and it's better because you write down, okay, this is what I expect of you, this is what you expect of me. We have the same goals. Let's go towards those goals. We could be open, non-monogamous. We could be monogamous if you want to. Here's how we take care of children. If you see somebody else, you wear condoms. With me, with no condom. You could write down any rule, because it's not connected with religion. So that's a good thing about it. It's just a contract.
I've heard about the BDSM contract.
Yeah.
Doms have brothers.
Yeah.
Masters and mistresses have
Yes, it's a contract to manage expectations, manage behaviors, and it's a fantastic thing. It's not inhibiting. It's free. So I begin with the premise that rules create freedom rather than create inhibition. For example, the reason why we can go out there and not get murdered is because there are rules against murder.
Yes.
Right? So rules create freedom. If you have a contract, if you have a relationship where there are rules, it's fantastic. I have rules in my relationships which create harmony and amazing, and it's still open, it's still transparent and amazing. It's not inhibiting. So rules are, it doesn't create inhibition, it creates freedom.
Okay, so my next question, I'm pretty sure you already know this. These are just like life questions. Now, I most of the time I start getting into more of the BDSM because that's my main goal is to teach people. But I already know you're in the community, so you already know. But I'm still going to ask you the question.
Yeah, just for
so you know what breeding is.
What?
Breeding.
Breeding?
Breeding.
What do you mean?
So there are women that actually are breeders. Like they like to be bred by black males.
Yeah.
And from it's usually husband and wife, and they're usually white.
Yeah.
Their ethnicity is usually white.
Yeah.
But those women are called forgot the term. Spade.
Never heard of it.
Spade queens or something like that. But so
that's a cool term.
they asked the black male, can you breed my wife while I watch? It's basically like cock-holding. You're breeding that person. You're putting your seed in that person. You're going to have your baby.
Yeah.
So since you're not familiar with that, what is your perspective on that?
That's fine.
That's fine.
I think it's absolutely fine, and it's within the context of contracts. I mean, if you set expectations, you could literally do anything if you manage expectations and both parties are consensual. For example, cuckolding is a fantastic example because traditionally it's frowned upon. Oh my God, this person is so worthless that they would have their wife have intercourse with another male, and they sit in the corner and watch and suck on their thumb, or whatever the fetish is, right? Whatever the kink is. And I say, within the context of that's what turns them on, that's what makes them feel alive, as long as it's psychologically healthy, not detrimental to them as a person, and it turns them on for whatever reason, go for it. The way it becomes detrimental or not a good thing is if there's no consent. So consent is everything, right? So, for example, I would like you. So, for example, if a person wanted their wife to breed with somebody else, and they're both consensual, they both want it, perfect. That goes with everything. If it turns them on to have their wife have sex with an orgy, many men, fantastic, go for it. Just have, are your expectations correct? Are you healthy, safe? Are you safe health-wise? Are you safe? Have they all been checked, STDs? Are you both psychologically healthy? Is it detriment to your relationship? So if those things are addressed, it's a healthy thing. Fantastic.
Okay. There are sadists in the BDSM community. Obviously, like I said, you already know this. What is your opinion on the sadists? Is that like an actual kink, or is that something like
psychologically fucked up?
Yes.
So most people believe it's actually sadism and masochism has gone on for a long time, long time, and it's been, of course, frowned upon. So that's why it's such an underground secretive community. Except for nowadays, where there are more liberal thinkers, progressive thinkers. I don't consider myself the liberal in the way that most people are nowadays, but I'm classically liberal. I mean, I'm open relationship kind of guy, and there are a lot of people who are feminist, which are not actual feminists, like Nazi feminists. They want the benefits of feminism without the actual philosophy. They want the freedom without the responsibility, right? They want to get rid of men, but they need men. They just want the men to do the work, but they want all the power. So feminism is the anyways. What was the question again? I forgot.
Do sadists belong in?
All right. I think it's fantastic. I think it's an incredible. So for me, as a professional dom for like 4 or 5 years, I've never looked at it as either vanilla or kink. I've looked at it as everybody is kinky. It's just a matter of how much they can get away with in the relationship. So I have non-judgmental acceptance in my relationships, meaning you could be whoever you want to be, and as long as it doesn't cross my boundaries of things I won't accept, means if you don't like open up dead babies, then I'm okay. if you're not a thief, if you don't kill people, you could there's a large range of things I'll accept. So if you, for example, if you do drugs, I don't want any part of that. Yeah. So there's a.
So before you continue, I did interview another dom.
Yeah.
He's a much older dude. He's like 46.
Yeah.
He's been a dom for probably like over 20 years.
Yeah.
I did ask him a personal question. What was his contract with his 3 partners?
Yeah.
At first he didn't want to answer it.
Yeah.
But he got comfortable with me after I told him that I am also in the community.
Yeah.
And he told me, so I'll ask you too, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Telling me your contract, your relationship, or your past relationships.
Yeah. The reason why I communicate so well is because I believe in open communication. Like I have no inhibition. I have no secrets for myself. It's only a matter of finding people who align with me.
Yeah.
If I say something that offends them, then they're not the kind of people I want around me. That's a fantastic way to communicate. In my relationships, I have 2 fantastic rules. And the rules are so fantastic. They're the most amazing rules. The rules of be healthy and look out for your health and always wear a condom and when you sleep with other people. Those aren't rules. Those are just common sense to me, because if you don't have the kind of common sense of looking out for your sexual health and my sexual health, I don't want any part of that. I don't want any interaction with you. But if you're the kind of person who's sexually healthy, who wears condoms, who's cognizant of that thing. For example, people that are in the adult industry are very good with that. Most of them, a lot of them not. A lot of them aren't. A lot of them are.
Yes,
So going back, I only have 2 rules. My first rule is that I will never be any woman's only male lover. I will never be any woman's only. I want to be taken for granted, because if I were her only source of sex, then how do I know that her being with me means anything? How do I know? The only way that I can know that that out of all her options, I'm the best, is if she has options. If she has no options, then how do I know she's just not with me because she has no options? That's my number 1 rule. My number 2 rule, where is that girl? I gotta message her. My number 2 rule is that I require her to get along with my other girlfriends. That means that no. Yeah.
Do you have other girlfriends?
Of course. I have many.
Are they all different, meaning category-wise? Are some of them subs, littles?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll explain that.
Okay.
So I'll come back to that. Let me finish the second one, because it explains it.
Yeah.
The second one is that I require her to get along with my other girlfriends. It doesn't mean that she has to make love with them or have sex with them, but at least don't cause any, don't talk bad about each other, don't start rumors, or don't have illful will towards other people. So, your question, do I have other girlfriends? Of course. I have a lot of friends who are female, and the best part about friends is that you can sleep with them. I have 1 primary. I'm not really a practitioner of, although I believe in, what do you call that word? Multiple loves. What do you call that word? I forgot the word. Do you know it? Where you're able to love multiple people? It'll come back to me. But I don't have multiple primaries, like multiple partners.
Yeah.
Because who's got the time? I barely have time for myself, for my business, and I barely have time for my partner. Who has time for 2 or 3 or 4? But I don't limit myself to like only being with one person. So my rule, um, I will not be any woman's only source of cock. So I never be taken for granted because I believe I'm deserving, and the center of my universe is being deserving. So if she's with me, it's only because she loves being with me, and that's gratifying. Like when someone listening to this hears that, you think to yourself, okay, is the reason my partner's with me just because they have no other choice? Is the only reason they're sleeping with me is because there's only one bed? I was like, damn, that sucks. How am I ever gonna know, right, if I'm worthy? So, I'm a free agent. She is a free agent, my partner, which means that anybody whom I interact, I engage with them in the way that they like to engage with. If they're submissive, good. If they're dominant, good. Except that I'm not really submissive, so it's not going to work that well, right? But you could interact with, you could have another submissive, and we can play, or you could maybe interact with my girlfriend if she likes you, then we can play. But I'm not submissive, so that's not going to work. But if you're, I don't require you, because I'm naturally dominant. I don't require you to be submissive for me to interact with you.
Yeah.
It's just how we interact in interface. If I appreciate you as a person, and you're both hot and cool at the same time, hot looking, and a cool person at the same time.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right.
Does that answer it?
Yeah. Like I said, you give me like the best answers. I
thanks,
feel it's
man.
because you have experience in a lot of things.
Yeah.
The other people I've asked, their answers were a little confusing, a little contradicting in a way. Because they would go to one topic and go back to another topic, and the two topics were crossed but don't actually click together.
Yeah.
So it was a little harder to talk to them about it. But that was it though. That's all all my questions right there.
I appreciate that, man.
That was perfect. Like I got some really good information
I appreciate that.
I don't know how long we've been sitting here, but
44 minutes. Where's my girlie?
Yes.
I would love to introduce you to her. Because now the challenge for women, now for men, for example, like when people hear that we're in an open relationship, people imagine that it's so easy for her to meet other men. The truth is completely the opposite. It's hard, like women who are really, really beautiful, it's hard for them to find, or no, let me say it again. Women who are really, really well-established, beautiful and smart, it's hard for them to meet other men who are cool, because a lot of men are not so established. So for example, if you played chess all your life, but you've only played chess with your dad, and you beat your dad, it's like, oh my God, I'm so good at chess. And then you go out there and you go in the real world and you play somebody who's like a 20-year-old, and you lose to him. They're like, oh, I'm not really that good, because you only had experience with one person. So most men are terrible because they barely have any experience. For whatever reason, society, they've only had one partner all their life, and so they imagine this one thing works with this one person, and it works with everybody. And so my advice for most men is that
they're
projecting
on another, like it's crazy because I know personally, like there are women that do message me on Instagram and they ask me, can we go on a date, and I strictly flat out say everything, I am a dom, I don't do monogamy, I'm not a monogamous person, and they stop immediately to talk to me. They stop talking to me.
Yeah.
But they come back for some reason.
Yeah.
And then once they have an experience with me, and I teach them and I train them obedience and stuff like that, they're intrigued on it, and they're like, wow, this is different, that I've never had this before.
Yeah.
And I asked them, well, why? And so I was one man or two men.
Yeah.
And one just came very fast, and the other said he was a dom, but didn't really know what the fuck that meant.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that I don't like.
A lot of that.
Where a lot of men use that dom word to get women. Yeah. And it sets a bad example for the actual doms that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because there was an incident where I did meet a girl, and she was like, I'm into doms. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And once I started putting her through training and stuff, she thought that was completely weird. Yeah. And I was thinking to myself, well, why would that be completely weirder if you're interested in doms? Well, she said the two that I've been with, you know, they would just choke me. Yeah. And I was like, well, no, that is not what it's. That's not what it is at all.
So what she was imagining was she was interested in being with a dominant person. The dom title it represents itself in many different forms. You could be female in a dom.
Yeah.
You could be a dom with not such a strict what do you call that? Strict rules. You could be a fantastic and amazing dom without training anybody. You could be a dom, fantastic, amazing dom, portray the slave master relationship dynamic, and dom represents itself in many different ways. And so it depends on the woman if she likes to forego There are a lot of women, my clientele, who are very, very responsible, very, very smart, and in high echelons of society, meaning CEOs, business owners. They make millions of dollars a year, and they like to forego the responsibility. It doesn't mean that a woman is submissive, meaning they're not smart, they're irresponsible. Yeah. It just means that for that time being that they're with you, they want to forego all responsibility and be submissive in that moment. It doesn't mean they have to be a submissive person. So you could portray you could be a lifestyle dom. It's not about titles. It's not about I'm a dom, I'm a specific way. It's about dynamics. It's about the dynamics between two people. And every person, the challenge with being in an open relationship is I get questioned often, what is she better than me? I'm like, no, everybody's different. And everybody has their own individual thing, dynamic. And am I a good enough submissive to you? Like some would say that, and I would say, I don't compare you in levels. I compare you in experiences. I don't compare it. Everybody's experienced differently. Yeah. And the reason you're my best friend is because out of all of my options, you're the best. So, and the only reason you know you're my best is because I spend all my attention on you, or most of my attention on you. So
I just never understood that, why other people, it just gives a bad name.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to use, oh yes, I'm into BDSM, but they know nothing of the structure or what goes into that, and the different categories that go into that. Different, it's a lot that goes into that, and people seem to like
a lot of skills, a lot of interpersonal communication. And that's the reason why it's important for a woman to appreciate that, to research first and never meet somebody without knowing more about them. I mean, it's true whether or not they're a dom. If they're just a random person, they should evaluate whether the person's safe to be with, and is a person who they say they are. And if they say I'm a dom, it's important for the women to recognize. Let's see who you are first. Let's communicate for a while, and let me find out if you're actually who you say you are. So it would be tragic for a woman to just say, oh, you're a dom? Okay, let me experience being dominated. And then you have she has no idea if that person has any skills at all. Yeah. So there are going to be a lot of people who portray they're dominant or submissive, but it's up to the individual to be smart enough to recognize, let me find out if that's true. Let me find out if this product is actually any good.
Yeah.
If you go to a store which has handbags or phones, it doesn't have the Apple logo, like, let me find out if this phone is actually what it says on the label. It could be a shitty phone. Shitty product.
Yes, put it perfectly.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, let's communicate some more. I'll send you over the audio. I appreciate the interview. I'll send you over the audio. I'm gonna go eat.